If you found this video, I'm sure it's because you love going to new places and experiencing new things. But planning a trip solo can be quite overwhelming. So I'm sure your immediate thought was, let me invite a few friends. Then we can share ideas and split the cost. But then quickly realize that that can be just as much of a headache as going solo. So what is your other option? Maybe travel groups? This video will help you decide if travel groups are right for you.
And your captain has turned off the fasten seatbelt sign. Feel free to move around the cabin.
Hello. I'm Sparkle, your single solo traveling sister, here sharing my tips and adventures to help inspire your next trip. I am on a friend's trip this weekend, and my friend was asking me how I felt about my travel group experience. And she was also telling me about some of her travel group experiences that were pretty much a nightmare, which led me to compile a list of some of the things that you should know before joining a travel group to help you decide if traveling with a travel group is ideal for you. I'm sure you've noticed lately a heavy influx in travel group advertisement all over social media. Travel groups are the new offset of that traditional travel agency. Before you could just hop on Kayak or Hotwire or Priceline or Get Your Guide or Viator or any other number of websites or apps that plan a trip for you, people would use travel agents. Travel agents would do all of the legwork, comparing prices, researching activities, researching hotels, and do all that for you and just kind of combine it in a package to present to you and your specific group. Since people have access to all that information on their own, travel agents aren't needed as much as they were. However, lately, with a lot more people having the flexibility to travel more frequently, what I have noticed is an increase in travel groups. Now, there are different types of travel groups. There are those travel groups that you can join. Once you've gotten to a destination, you can hop on a day tour with a group and get back to your hotel and never see or speak to those people again. Or there are travel groups that plan an entire trip, several day trip with a group of strangers. So I want to talk about the travel groups where you are traveling with a group of people that you probably will not know for several days at a time. You've probably seen some of these groups in your social media feed or timeline whenever you are looking up a destination, or maybe it just pops up in your algorithm. Now, while I don't have experience with all of these travel groups, I am going to use my experience combined with the experiences of some friends to help you to get a better idea of what you can expect if you join one of these travel groups. Here's what you need to know before booking with a travel group. First and foremost, why would you even book with a travel group? Like I already said, all of the information you need to know can probably be found on the internet. Even in some lesser developed countries, you can still find a good amount of information on the internet. And I, as a solo traveler, can definitely attest to that. It may take a little bit more digging and effort, but the information is out there. So why would you join a travel group? Well, it's simple. It takes a lot more effort to plan a trip on your own. And for most people who just don't have the time or energy or even the idea of doing all of that extra legwork takes you out of vacation mode. When you go on vacation, you don't want to have to think about anything. You don't want to have to think about how you're going to get from the airport, what time you need to check into your hotel, or where you're going to go eat. It just feels like more work than play. So a travel group makes your vacation experience easy peasy. You literally just pack and show up. The only thing you have to think about is what you're going to wear. Travel groups are perfect for solo travelers, or if you even have that small friend group of 3 or 4 people, then some of them can be a little flaky. You don't know who's going to show up, who's not. Joining a travel group takes the stress off of that one person, because usually the person who initiates ends up having to collect the payments. Everything goes on that person's credit cards. So if somebody backs out, that person is left holding the bill. And this can be a bummer, and this happens all too often. So joining a travel group where you can break down your payments over time instead of one person paying everything, and if something goes awry, you just end up losing your money. A travel group allows you to have a payment plan. You pay a deposit, and then you pay a little bit each month leading up to the trip. While I fully enjoy solo travel, and we will get into some more specific comparisons of solo travel to travel groups, traveling with a travel group makes you feel a lot safer and secure. So if you have friends that are a little bit more skeptical, asking them to join a travel group with you versus the two of you just planning a trip together can be a way to ease your way into traveling internationally without just jumping out there and not knowing anything. There is an endless amount of travel groups to choose from. Sometimes they all seem like they're offering the same thing, and then sometimes they all seem like they're offering something different. So how do you know which is right for you? Well, like I always say, do your research. The internet is a very valuable tool, and social media can be your friend when you're using it for the right purpose. So a lot of these travel groups are on social media, and they should have a separate independent website. I would discourage you from booking anything with anyone if they don't have their own website where you can go find information. And so if the only digital footprint that this company has is a Facebook page, I would immediately say no. Not that websites are 100% reliable either, but I think any company nowadays that is accepting large amounts of money from people should have its own website. Not all travel groups are the same. So with doing your online research, I would encourage you to look through the company's content and the types of trips that they do to decide if a travel group is right for you. Who is going to be featured in the marketing material of that company? Is it women? Is it teenagers? Is it seniors? Is it retirees? Who is heavily featured? And that will help you know if that demographic is the demographic of people that you see yourself traveling with and spending several days with. There are some travel groups that focus only on female travel, only on solo travel, only on couples, and some that focus on younger people, and some that focus on seniors and retirees. So do your research ahead of time. So don't be afraid to check their social media pages and read the reviews. Also read the comments in some of the photos to see what people are saying. If people are saying, I had such a great time on this trip, or I want to book with you again, then that should give you some sort of confidence. If people are making snarky comments, that may be a red flag. Also, don't be afraid to contact some people who booked with these companies before who may be tagged in some of these photos. On social media, you can tag the company, and then the company can tag individuals. It takes a little internet sleuthing, but it will be worth it if it gives you a peace of mind before paying thousands of dollars to a company that you've never done business with before. Travel groups may offer different things for different destinations, so it is important to do your research before just paying your deposit. For example, the travel group that I went with to my recent trip to Bali, this was a self-care retreat. So a self-care retreat is going to offer something very specific for the person who is joining this group. It wasn't a turn-up trip. It's not a lay at the pool all day type of trip. We had very specific activities that cater to self-care. If you don't enjoy yoga, if you don't enjoy meditating, if you don't enjoy tapping into your spiritual side, then this trip probably wasn't for you. There were a few people on the trip that just didn't connect with these activities, and that made it awkward for other people who came to have that experience. So these are some of the things that you want to be mindful of when you are joining these trips. A lot of times we see these destinations and think, oh, this is very trendy. I've seen a lot of people going here. I'm going to go. But it is important to do that extra amount of research as well. So even though with the travel groups, everything is kind of planned out for you, you still need to take it upon yourself to do some research. Next, let's get into the prices. Now, prices with these travel groups, just like prices with travel in general, can run the gamut. You can go to some groups that are going to be backpack budget friendly and some that are going to be high end and luxurious. And you have to decide which is a better fit for you. What I will say is a lot of the cheaper backpack budget friendly hostels, everybody bunked up, sleeping 3 to 4 to a room type of trips are going to probably appeal to a younger demographic like college students or people in their early 20s who are just working their first jobs and just really want to travel for the experience, where a lot of the high-end, more luxurious, pricier travel group excursions are going to appeal to older demographics, people who have a lot more disposable income and don't mind paying a little bit more for comfort. Typically, travel groups are going to be slightly more pricey than when you plan it out on your own, because the person who owns the company needs to make money for their time and effort that they put into it. But sometimes the price difference is going to be negligible, or sometimes you can even pay a little bit more if you are traveling solo because you're paying for everything on your own. You're not necessarily splitting these prices with anybody. So it really depends. But just in general, you are going to pay more. If you just break it down activity by activity or meal by meal, you probably would pay more with the travel group than if you did all these exact same things on your own. With that being said, make sure that you are clear on what is included with the fees that you're paying, because again, each travel group offers something different. Most will cover your accommodations and transportation, because in order to get that group price, everybody needs to stay at the same place and arrive and travel to all of these different destinations together. You also want to make sure you are okay with the accommodations before you make that booking. I have seen some stories with people getting into these travel groups, paying their deposit, paying their money, and not even knowing where they're going to be staying until a couple of days before the trip, which is insane. I couldn't see myself committing to going anywhere unless I knew where I was going to be staying. Another thing that keeps these prices reasonable or a little bit more affordable is the fact that you usually will be doubled up or have a roommate with these travel groups. So as a solo traveler, I can see the pros and the cons. And as somebody that has been on multiple travel group trips, it can be a dream or a nightmare. The benefits are that you get out of your comfort zone, you meet new people, you kind of have a travel buddy without having a travel buddy. So because you're rooming together, you can talk and laugh and joke and get dressed together, especially when it's an all-girls trip, which I'll talk about co-ed trips versus all-girls trips in just a second. So you have someone there, which makes it a little bit more fun and a little less lonely, but takes away from you having your own personal space. So me being an introvert, when I've been around people all day, I like to have some alone time. At the end of the night, everybody is a little different. Some people are very chatty and they want to talk all night long. Some people are a little bit more reserved and they don't want to be bothered, and you don't know if you spark up a conversation, if you'll be bothering them. So that part can be a little awkward because sometimes it can be a complete stranger. However, like I said, a lot of these travel groups, you can book with a friend. So if there is a friend that you want to travel with, or you guys have been saying that you want to do a trip together, you guys can book together and you'll be put in a room together. On the one hand, that probably won't get you out of your comfort zone much, but at least you know what you're getting yourself into. Now, most of these travel groups will give you the option for single occupancy, but just know that that will make the price go up. So you won't be getting as much for your money as the people who are doubled up. Additionally, meals are usually included when you are joining the travel groups. Not all your meals, so make sure you read the fine print to understand, okay, is breakfast, lunch, and dinner going to be taken care of, or are we just getting one meal a day? Oftentimes, if anything, breakfast will be included. Again, when you're dealing with groups of people, we're talking 10 or more people, it's just easier for everybody to start the day at least knowing that they're going to have breakfast. So a lot of times these travel groups will at least include breakfast. But having your meals included can be a hit or miss because people are so finicky when it comes to what they prefer to eat. And when you're with a travel group, it is going to be about what is going to be preferred for the group as a whole, not necessarily an individual. So if you are a picky eater, or if you have a very restricted diet, you only eat one meal a day, or you're intermittent fasting, or whatever the case is, this may end up being where you just are not getting your money's worth, or it may be one of those things to consider if it is worth it for you at all. Additionally, when you're traveling internationally, the food can be quite exotic, so it just may not appeal to you, but just understand that with the travel groups, it's all included in that fee. So you'll either be wasting money if you don't eat the food, or wasting food if you get it and you don't enjoy it. Now, while food is usually included, or at least some meals, alcohol is rarely included. So if you love to have a drink or a cocktail, or in your night with a martini martini or pina colada when you're on vacation. Just keep in mind that those will be extra expenses when you are traveling with a travel group. Now, speaking of alcohol, what usually goes hand in hand with alcohol is nightlife and partying. And this is why I say make sure you look into the type of travel group that you are joining. Some groups, that is very high on their list. When you go through their social media feed, you see everybody with bottles of alcohol in their hand, taking shots, jumping off of yachts, and it just seems like every single trip is lit AF. If that is the type of vacation experience you enjoy having, then that may be the type of group for you. That is not typically the type of travel experience I like to have, especially when I am around people I don't know. Now, if it's my close friends that I've known for years and we want to have a day or two on our vacation where we're just drinking and having an amazing time, that is always welcome. But going out of the country for 7 days just to drink and party is not something that I would enjoy. So again, these are the small nuances that you want to keep in mind. Because the flip side of that is I have joined trips that are specifically for cultural experiences where some people in the group wanted to drink from sunup to sundown, literally starting the day with a cocktail and wanting to have a drink at every stop and wanting to end the day at a nightclub. It was very obvious that their intentions was a little bit off from what the plans for the group were. So that takes me to my next point of needing to be respectful of others. Now, again, if you're planning a trip by yourself or even with your core group of friends or family, it can be all about you. You can start the day when you want. If you wake up and people are running late, whoever you're traveling with, if you want to say, okay, I was going to get started at 7 a.m., but I'm going to stay in bed for another hour, it doesn't really affect anybody but you. Or if you are with your friends and you say, hey, you guys want to wait another hour before we go? And everybody's like, yeah, sure, let's do that. Again, it doesn't affect anything. But these types of decisions tend to get tricky when you are with a travel group. It is very important that when you're traveling with a travel group that you are mindful of your time. What makes the travel group work efficiently is that all of these things are pre-planned, prepaid for, and planned out at certain times so that you can get the most economical price for that activity. So if you are a person that is typically running late or likes to do your own thing, you don't like to be on a time schedule, you don't like to be rushed, then these are things that you want to be honest with yourself about and just say that, hey, this may not be for me. And while with travel groups, it is okay to venture off, you just want to be mindful that usually you're going to have a tight schedule. So you don't want to venture off and have the rest of the group waiting on you for 30, 40, or 50 minutes because that can completely throw off the rest of the plan for the day. So basically, don't be that person. Like I mentioned earlier, there are different types of travel groups that offer different things and that cater to different people. There are some travel groups that are co-ed, which people love the co-ed trips because they feel like who wants to go on vacation and be around all women? Or a guy may say, who wants to go on vacation and be around all guys? Personally, I like groups that are specifically for women only. Things get a little weird when it is a co-ed trip because people have different intentions, which is fine. But because I know that's not what I'm here for, to me, it is not a priority. And then there are some groups that cater specifically to couples, meaning that you won't even be able to sign up for the trip unless you are a couple, unless you're married, engaged, dating, or whatever the case is. They are only looking for couples. Again, this is great because people usually prefer to travel with their significant other. But again, it takes that planning out of it. So you still get that romantic element. You don't feel like you're encroaching on a singles trip, but you don't have to do all the planning on your own. Another thing you want to consider when you are booking a trip through a travel group is the flexibility or lack thereof. When you are traveling solo or just with a couple of friends, you can go about your day as you prefer. If you want to stay at the beach for a couple of extra hours, or if you decide you want to sleep in one day or go out one night, you completely have those options up to you. Whereas with a travel group, on the one hand, where you don't have to plan anything ahead of time, you also don't have a lot of flexibility. So with the travel groups that I've been a part of, the schedules are pretty jam-packed. There is very little downtime. And what seems like it would be downtime ends up not being downtime because you're trying to accommodate so many people that the extra 2 or 3 hours that you thought you would have had, that time ends up getting eaten up. Sorry, my camera died. And then my friend came in, I started chatting with her and completely forgot that I was supposed to be recording a video. But let's pick it up where I left off. I think we were talking about flexibility or the lack thereof. So on the one hand, with travel groups, you do have everything planned out for you. You just show up, pack your clothes, book your flight, and show up. But on the other hand, there is a lack of flexibility because people who plan these travel group trips tend to want to appeal to as many people in the group as possible. It's a little bit of everything being planned. So unless the trip has a specific theme, like it is an art and museum travel experience or a yoga retreat or a fitness retreat or a hiking retreat, something very specific and niche. If it is just a general tourist experience in an area, it's likely that you are going to have a jam-packed schedule. Mostly everything will be prepaid, or you will only be able to get the discounted rate if the entire group is there. So that leaves very little flexibility. If you like to have more of a go jam-packed schedule when you travel, then this can be a benefit of joining a travel group. However, if you like to have more leisure time when you travel and just kind of wander about with not a lot to do throughout the day, maybe there's downtime during the day and then you just meet up for dinner. You may be able to find some travel groups that offer that, but they will be difficult to find. So in addition to having less flexibility, you also have less privacy with travel group. This can be a pro and a con. Like I talked about earlier, most of the rates you find will be based on double occupancies. If you are not booking with a friend or a significant other, then you will be placed with another solo traveler. So there will likely be always someone in your space at all times. Now, sometimes, depending on the type of accommodations, your roommate may not be in the room all the time. Whenever we're not doing activities, I am typically in the room because I just like a little bit of peace and quiet from time to time. If you are a super social butterfly and you like to be around people all the time, you will get that with a travel group. If you are more of an introvert and you like to have a significant amount of time to be by yourself, that is going to be difficult to get when you are traveling with a travel group. Also, you won't have an option to personalize your experience with a travel group. So, and you have to be okay to go with the flow. If you are very rigid with what you like to do or what you're open to doing when you travel, then a travel group probably will not be right for you. Travel groups are going to be a better fit for people who are a lot more open-minded and are able to go with the flow. Because whether you're traveling by yourself, whether you're traveling with your family or just a few friends, or whether you're traveling with a travel group, international travel of any kind is going to have surprises. There are going to be hiccups. There are always going to be things that you have to adjust to that you may not have been prepared for. So that's what I try to give people a heads up about with travel in general. Just make sure you have realistic expectations. Another thing that I would consider a strong benefit of travel groups is that these trips tend to be more tapped into the local community and experiences. So again, when you're planning something independently, unless you have family or a friend in that area, it involves a ton of research and you still don't really know what to expect. And sometimes even with travel groups, you don't know what you're going to expect. They can post all the pictures and videos and testimonies that they want to post, and it still doesn't give you 100% certainty on what to expect. But one of the benefits is that the nuanced logistics are taken care of by someone else. So a lot of times, if there are language barriers in a certain destination, that can affect your planning process or even affect how you navigate within an area. All of that is taken care of. So those are some of the things that make the travel group experience worth it. Some of these things do offset some of the nuances that may not be so great. So sharing a room with somebody may be considered a drawback. But if you have to choose between sharing a room with somebody or just wandering around being confused because you don't know how to speak the language in an area, I would choose sharing a room with a stranger. And with that being said, of course, safety and security is always at the top of everyone's mind when they are traveling, whether you're traveling solo or whether you're traveling with the group. Now, I will say if you are traveling with actual friends or people that you know, that is going to be the most safe and secure option. However, if you have to choose between true solo travel or a travel group, I would say a travel group is going to be safer and more secure than traveling solo. If you are a solo traveler, you can make yourself more of a target. Whereas if you're traveling with a group, mischievous people tend to stay away because it's a large group. So it's hard to target one person. However, nothing is 100% guaranteed. So like I say in every single video, just always be aware of your surroundings. Pack in a way that you can keep track of your belongings and try to avoid bringing things that are extremely valuable with you on vacation, whether you're traveling solo or with a group. Going back to the conversation that I was just recently having with a friend, one thing that came up is, are some destinations better for travel groups while some aren't? And I say yes, travel groups are better for destinations that are difficult to navigate versus a destination where it's a little slower and there's not a lot going on. For example, I just came back from Tahiti. That to me would not be a destination that you would need to go to with a travel group. It's not a lot to do. It is very easy to navigate. It's very easy to get around. You could easily spend 4 or 5 days there by yourself or with a significant other or even with family and do a bit of research online and you'll be able to see everything there is to see with no confusion. Whereas destinations are just a lot more difficult to navigate. They're more difficult to plan things because a lot of the companies don't have as much of an online presence. So you have to be kind of connected with the locals in a way that they can help you plan and navigate your stay. So those types of destinations where there's a language barrier, where getting around is difficult, where getting a clear understanding of what to expect with activities can be challenging. Those are the types of destinations that I think a travel group would be more ideal for. Lastly, I also want to note that not only are we seeing an increase in the different types of travel groups and the amount of travel groups, we are now starting to see influencers planning group trips as well. And I want you to understand that influencers planning group trips is different from travel groups. While I do support travel groups and I will be joining more travel groups in the future as a single solo traveler, I would caution you against joining a trip that is coordinated by an influencer. Even if that influencer travels regularly, what tends to happen is influencers see these travel groups that are coordinating these trips, and this is just my assumption. They assume that, oh, okay, well, I can collect the money and book the accommodations. And when all of these people sign up, I'll just take them to all the places that I go when I go to these destinations. And it ends up being a bit of a mess because what people realize is if you don't do this all the time, you cannot be as prepared as someone who has done this multiple times with multiple different groups, multiple personalities, and knows how to navigate the challenges and difficulties that come with planning group trip. If this is just a once a year or 1 or 2 times a year thing that you do, what tends to happen is one, either the influencer will be affiliated with an umbrella company. So that adds multiple layers of accountability. You don't know who to hold accountable if you don't get what you signed up for or if something goes awry, because do you go to the influencer? A lot of times the influencer is the face of the experience. You may be following somebody and say, oh, okay, well, this person travels a lot and they're planning a trip. So I want to go with them because I see on my timeline that it always looks like they're having a good time. But what happens is they're not really planning the trip. They're just the face of the trip. They're just the spokesperson for the trip, basically marketing to their followers for the trip. The umbrella company is actually who is planning the trip. And so because the umbrella company is kind of hiding behind the influence, there's a lack of accountability there. And then if something goes wrong, the influencer ends up getting all of the heat and not the umbrella company. And the umbrella company just moves on to the next influencer to sponsor another trip. That's one direction that these influencer trips usually go on. Another one is the influencer just takes it upon themselves to plan a trip as a means to generate another form of income. That can be even more difficult because if you do not plan trips with a variety of different groups on a regular basis, then you won't be prepared, or you won't be as prepared for some of the things that ultimately will come up with international travel with a large group. That is something that you can be mindful of. Not to say that an influencer cannot plan a successful trip, but it takes a lot of trial and error. And I would not want to be the person that joins a trip with an influencer that has only done it one or two times. So ultimately, the main takeaway is that if you are thinking about joining a travel group, you definitely want to keep an open mind. You want to be clear on the type of experience you are looking to have and who you are looking to have that experience with. So do your research by looking at the marketing material that these travel groups are using to appeal to their demographic. And that should tell you if that demographic is the type of demographic that you want to travel at, whether it's women, co-ed, singles, couples, whatever the case is, it should be visible in their marketing material. Also look at the price point and what is included in that price point. Once you have determined if those two things are a good fit for you, go into it with an open mind and clear intentions. My advice is always, if you have the intention to enjoy yourself, you will enjoy yourself. If you go into it looking for something to be upset about, looking for issues, you'll find issues. If you are a very particular person and you have to have certain hotel accommodations, certain food options, you'll only stay in certain accommodations and only eat certain food and only like to be out in certain types of weather conditions, and everything just has to be just so for you to enjoy yourself, a travel group is not going to be right for you. Don't even kid yourself. I've seen so many story times of trips that have gone wrong. And usually what has gone wrong is people did not have the right expectations. Always keep an open mind and clear intentions, and be prepared to make the best out of whatever experience you have. And ultimately, if you have been completely bamboozled and a group has completely misled what they said they were supposed to be giving you, then that is where travel insurance comes in. And there are lots of great travel insurance options that cover these types of things. However, speaking of travel insurance, another thing that you want to be mindful of with travel groups is that other than your flight, you won't be paying for things individually. So some things may not be covered. For example, your accommodations, a hotel charge will not show up on your credit card bill because you're paying that money directly to the group coordinator. Or if you are paying for excursions, those charges won't show up individually on your credit card bill because you're paying that flat fee to the trip coordinator. So if something goes wrong in these individual areas that you want to try to dispute on your credit card, get covered with your travel insurance, that may be an issue. However, overall, if you're not satisfied, most of these group coordinators will try to make some sort of accommodation for you. Hopefully, if you're considering joining a travel group for your upcoming experience, this information will be helpful. Let me know in the comments if you have had any experiences with travel groups in the past, or if there are any concerns with joining a travel group that you have. We can discuss it below, and maybe I'll do a part 2. If you're liking these travel videos, make sure you like and subscribe. As the summer months approach, I have so much more travel content coming your way, including vlogs and tips. So hit that notification bell so you don't miss any updates. See you soon.